Hey folks, if you're just joining, we're going to get started a couple minutes after the hour, so hang tight. Hey folks, we're going to get started a couple minutes after the hour, so hang tight. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. All righty, let's get started. Thanks for joining, folks. Appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Hey, Andy. Andy and I like to do these. These are our Ask Us Anythings, where we hang out and give you a couple quick updates and then spend the rest of the time answering whatever questions you might have about anything. Let's get started. Andy, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sorry, and can you enable sharing?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
So I'm going to go ahead and just go over some release notes. We're typically releasing these in the community forum every couple weeks. We did recently update our badge in the UI that will notify you when we've got new announcements or release notes. You see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So there's just a couple of things that we've talked to you about in the previous AUA that encompass some things that we did in April. First one is creating a system message on the original ticket after it had been split. When we split tickets in Syncro, we were adding something to the new ticket. We weren't adding anything to the existing ticket, which made it a little bit difficult from an audit perspective to trace back the origination point of a split ticket. So we went ahead and added that and resolved that. We added, and this was a big request from folks, we added the ability to create new month tags for recurring invoices and invoice templates. So what that does is, for folks that are billing out their managed service contracts and customers can never remember if it's in advance, in arrears, etc., you can actually put the month now, a month tag, and just say it's the month tag service, so June service, July service, etc. We added 3 for that. We added this month, last month, and next month. So you should be able to fit anything you want in there in a dynamic fashion now with those new tags. We added a new notification for tickets. So when tickets were created from the agent contact form, they weren't flowing in as a notification on a new ticket, and we resolved that. So now that's something you can turn on in the notification center, and you can basically segment those from a notification perspective if you wanted to. And then the last one is we've been making some changes to our top nav, as I'm sure that a lot of you have seen. There's now the ability to collapse that top nav with a little caret. And then I'll let you all read through these again. They're on our community forums under release notes. But we resolved a bunch of bugs, of course. There was some 504s and 500 stuff with reports that were taking a long time to process. We've resolved that. Something similar going on with ticketing. And some other miscellaneous fixes and improvements. We updated some splash top stuff. New thing we added to patch management. We had something getting misclassified that was causing issues for some people, so we got that taken care of as well. So yeah, that's release notes for April. Now, normally, oh, sorry, and I'm on order. Ian's going to talk about upcoming events. Sorry, we switched this out last second. My fault.
Yep, no problem. Also, we got a short list of updates today. So if you have questions, feel free to start putting them in the Q&A box if you're on Zoom, if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook. Feel free to put them in the comments section, and those will flow in. We have some software where those will flow in, and we'll see all of them in one place. So feel free to start submitting your questions, and we'll get to them in a second. Okay. I have some upcoming events to share with you guys. Feel free to take advantage of these if they seem helpful. So if you go to our website and you go to the resource hub, where you can just go straight to webinars, you'll see that we have some upcoming ones. I want to highlight a few. The first is the MSP website teardown that we have on May 17th. So I think this is really great. Your website is a sales funnel for you. And this is a specialized webinar where we're having an expert come in and talk about MSP websites and how you can get more conversions out of it, make your business look more professional, etc. So hopefully that's helpful. Next one, tomorrow, Andy, feel free to chime in here. We have a Proofpoint and Syncro email security demo. Andy, anything you want to say here?
Yeah, so we did one of these maybe 2 weeks ago. We had a lot of interest in Proofpoint. We still had a lot of interest in Proofpoint. Initially, it was more like, who's Proofpoint? Why should you care? That was the first webinar we did, and that's available on our website. This is the follow-up to that. This is where we're going to go in the platform. We're going to deep dive it. We're going to show you basically how to set it up if you were deploying it to a new, Office 365 tenant or something like that, and really get into the nitty-gritty of how the actual platform itself works.
If you want to see the previous one, you can go to resources and then webinars, and you can go back here to the March 15th one. Yep. Okay, so hopefully people sign up for that. I'm going to post the links to these in the chat in a second. So if you want to sign up for any of them, you can. The last thing I want to highlight is Jennifer on our team has been doing a killer job with our podcasts. So those of you who don't know, we have a podcast. And if you go here to resources and then podcasts, you can find this. There's actually a lot of episodes now, and she's doing a great job. So you can check that out. You can find them on Spotify, iTunes, etc. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that for a second. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and post the links to these. Andy, back to you.
Yeah, so for this AUA, we don't have any feature releases to showcase like we normally do, but I have an announcement I think you are all going to be quite happy with instead. One of my favorite programs that we ever implemented here at Syncro was something called the Community-Driven Development Track. This was where I'd go into our Facebook community, I'd spin up a post, and everyone would collectively discuss their favorite quality of life feature requests with me in a group setting. We'd pick one or two of our favorites each round, and obviously we'd credit whoever requested it, and we'd go off and we'd work on building those out and delivering them back into the community. We ran this program for quite a while, but we needed to reallocate the resources that were being used there when we needed some extra firepower to focus on larger initiatives, things like migrating our entire platform from Heroku to AWS being the biggest example of that. Now that we're mission accomplished there, I am very happy to announce that we are bringing this program back to life. So for those of you that weren't around for when we were doing it the first time, here's how it works. I'm going to throw up a post in our communities, and it will be letting folks know a day or two ahead of time when these events will occur, and that'll be every couple of weeks. On the day of the event, I will put up a new post in our Facebook community, and you're free to add your top 2 favorite quality of life feature requests. It's not your top 25, it's your top 2, so make them count. When I say quality of life feature, this doesn't mean, hey, Andy, go build me ticket boards and go build me project management. This is that one little thing that Syncro might do that is already great, but whatever you're proposing would just make it perfect. Or if that one thing that we could just do would affect you in a great way, we want to know about it, we want to hear about it, we want to talk about it with you. So again, it needs to represent a small quality of life development task to be considered. Now, if you aren't sure the scope of what something might be, if it's big, if it's small, just ask me in the post and I'm happy to let you know. Now, this post will be open to comments for a full 24 hours so we can ensure partners in any time zone can participate. It just means like a pretty long day for me, but I want to make sure that everybody is getting to participate here. The following week, we will announce our favorites and we will hand those over to our engineering team, who will confirm the requests fit within the scope we expected them to. In the event they don't, we will pick a new favorite. If they do, then we'll get to work on building it. And then I'll have more details for everybody in the coming days, but you should expect to see something going up as early as next week. So I hope everybody's as excited as I am about bringing that back. Again, interacting with you all is one of my favorite things to do here at Syncro. So this just lets us do that on another level. And then one last thing, one of the features that I wanted to show up wasn't ready for today, but it is a quality of life feature, and it's one I specifically talked with a handful of you in the community forums about. And we basically have an option in our saved asset searches that says, hey, filter all the endpoints that have checked in or have not checked in the last X days. Well, we didn't have one for stuff that had checked in some amount of time. And that doesn't sound like a big change, but what it actually does is it enables a completely new billing mechanic for our recurring billing system. So what it will allow you to do is for any folks that are saying, hey, I only want to bill for active endpoints, meaning if I have 50 endpoints on Syncro, but 10 of them are laptops that are out of service, I want to be able to dynamically count what's active. Now you'll be able to do that by saying, show me everything that was online in the past 31 days or whatever the billing cycle was. And if it wasn't, you can filter it out. So just a hint too, for when you all are adding your feature requests to the community-driven development track, that's the type of thing we're looking for. Things that might seem small, but open up an entirely new avenue for you as MSPs to make money, save money, become more efficient, anything like that. It was a super cool request. I'm really glad we're getting to bring that one to fruition here, probably next week if I had to guess. So that's everything on the feature front that we have today. So I think we're going to just hop right into Q&A.
All right, I got one ready. We got a question here from Sunny. I have a question. Years ago, way back when I was with Repair Shopper, I was able to create a CNAME record in my DNS so I could use my own domain for accessing Repair Shopper. It'd be nice if customers could use my domain for accessing the customer portal. Yes. Yes. So we looked into this, and we use Cloudflare for DNS. It's kind of the standard. And we were talking to Cloudflare about how we could enable this in a secure way. And essentially they were like, it's going to cost you a lot of money we would have to pay per domain. So for everyone that wanted to turn that on, it would be like $20 a month. And that was at volume. So at some point I did a poll in our community and was like, would you want to pay $20 a month to have a white labeled domain name? And I think one person out of 50 said yes. So didn't seem like that was a viable solution. There may be other ways we could accomplish that, but they would require far, far, far more engineering. And so we decided to table that because there are other probably more valuable things we could do with that engineering time. And people did not want to pay $20 a month for that. So
yeah, Sonny agrees with you. He says, yeah, that's not worth it. So yeah, we agree.
Cool. You got one?
Yeah, William's saying, hey, Andy, nice to see you again. William, nice to see you too, bud. He's asking, when you create a ticket, is there a way to force adding a contract when you add the ticket? William, if you want to ask a follow-up, are you talking like if you normally the contract should automatically be applied if you're saying you have multiple contracts for some reason for the same customer and you're trying to set like a default or something? Let me know specifically what you're after there, and I can look into that for you.
Ruben has a question. He says, in the past, you had MySQL or SQL integration option for Syncro. We're looking to have a developer do some Power BI board with Syncro API, but need to export data for historical purposes. Why was this removed? So I actually don't think that's 100% accurate. I don't recall us ever having a SQL integration. We did have a database exports integration with Dropbox. And what that did is it exported CSVs of some of the tables on a regular basis to Dropbox. That's actually still around. You can still use that. However, that's probably not going to do what you are asking for. I have two things. Number one, I'm working on an official Power BI template app, and that should be available soon. So I think if you're trying to just get stuff in Power BI, we're going to make that easy for you. The second thing is we're also working on some like database export stuff. So hopefully that part will also be easy if you want to do it yourself. But those are in progress. I don't have, you can't use them yet. But if you want to use the Dropbox integration, that's already out. It's been out. I just don't know that that's going to do what you're hoping it does. So if you just hang tight for a little bit, I think we'll have what you're looking for.
We've got an anonymous user on LinkedIn saying, hey, could someone look at the Acronis script to install it? Doesn't seem to be running the install. Any tips for sorting this? It's hard for me to say. I don't know what issue you're running into. The only two things I'd say is that you would need to have generated the customer specific registration token in the Acronis portal, injected that into the script. You would have also needed to select the right regional instance. And then if it's a real slow machine, you might need to extend the script past 10 minutes. So it doesn't time out if it takes forever to download the install or something like that. But if it's not something obvious or you're getting an error, just shoot me an email, andy@syncromsp.com, or send it over to our support, and we'll take a look at that. We've got a whole, so I should have mentioned, we announced the community-driven development thing to you all first, and we didn't necessarily mention it internally yet. That's going to happen later in the week. So we have a bunch of sales folks who are also watching this who are super excited because they know how much folks enjoyed this too. So that's good to see there.
Question here from Pierre. Any plans to integrate with Hackware? We can do that. What would you want the integration to do? Would be my question. Are you trying to, my guess would be you want to bill against usage of Hackware in recurring invoices, but let me know what you want it to do.
William's saying, yes, he was talking about multiple contracts, difference between each one, to help show different types of tickets and what work can be done depending on the request. William, that's a little bit more complicated because that means we'd really have to build out contracts to be like labor type aware. This is really beyond just saying this labor type is billed for $100 under contract A and 50 under contract B. It's really like saying you can do this, you can't do this, et cetera, et cetera. That's the direction we would certainly like to go. It's just not, we're just not there yet. But that is something that I think I'd probably be safe to say we're as interested in doing those types of things as I think you would be. Sonny's asking, does anyone have any experience or solutions for asterisk so income and outgoing calls can be logged? I'm not going to lie, I don't even know what asterisk is. Do you know what that is, Ian?
I have a vague recollection of it being a VoIP thing,
Okay.
like CX, but I don't remember.
I have to be honest, as of today, I don't think we have any really hard and fast plans to integrate with anything from a VoIP perspective. That gets pretty gnarly for a lot of reasons, taxes being one of them, where it breaks it down into 47,000 different kinds of taxes, and it's just crazy. So I don't know if we'll be getting too much into like the resale of VoIP services and managing that within Syncro, that specifically anyways.
There's a free PBX integration.
Yeah.
But we don't have a relationship with the VoIP provider.
Jeff's asking, can we get canned responses and time entry added to the bulk actions on tickets? So you're saying you would want to grab like a dozen tickets and send the same bulk response to all of them? Or like add time to all of them? Let me know if that's what you mean. Yeah, I want to know the use case on that, because that could be a little bit dangerous in the event you accidentally select one that doesn't apply. But let me know what you're talking about there, John. Manny's asking, when will there be IP whitelisting for admin accounts? I don't have a when, Manny, but I do have a yes, it's something that we're going to be doing. I just don't have a timeline for you, unfortunately. You want to add anything there, Ian? Was that accurate?
It's going to happen.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, anonymous user saying, I've been trying to find a way to run commands as an administrator on the background tools CMD terminal window, but it doesn't allow me. Trying to send the date command to change the date gives me a required privilege is not held by the client. I'm not exactly sure what the issue is there. I'd reach out to support when you are running. Well, okay, so it might be because anything that's run in backgrounding tools is not run as the logged in user, and it might be that in order to change that time, you'd have to have it set up with user rights. This is basically the system account that's processing everything. So it'd be the same thing, like if you try to pull up the registry editor, you're not going to see like the current user key because it's not logged in as that particular user, it's logged in as system. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's what's happening, but you can reach out to support to confirm, but anything that needs to be run as a physical logged in user isn't going to process through a backgrounding tools command prompt by design.
We got a question here from Pierre. Can we customize the customer portal, like add more fields or change the color, etc.? I think you can change the color. There's not a ton of customization you can do. I will say if you really want a lot of customization, there is a product that we integrate with called Cloud Radial, which is basically like a super robust customer portal that you could check out. Obviously, that's a separate product and it has its own pricing and whatnot, but you could check that out.
Jeff's asking, currently scripts can be made available in every customer portal. Are there any plans to make it possible to make scripts available on a per customer basis instead? Jeff, that's a super good question. So Jeff's talking about in our scripting engine, we have the ability to flag a script and have it show up in the customer portal. So you could have, if you wanted to, and your customer had permissions to do so, they could run scripts on their own endpoints out of our customer portal. That's an all or nothing thing today. And Jeff, I love this. I think we need to do this. I've always wanted to do this. If you have the time, please add that as a feature request in our community forums. And I'd love to talk to you about that more because I do think that's a really powerful feature and we're already halfway there. So I'd love to see that get completed to fruition.
Got a question here from Ruben. He says he's uber paranoid, but I disagree with him. He would like to get a notification or MFA prompt when a script is added or modified, just for security reasons. I think that's totally reasonable. And I just had a brainstorm meeting this week with our CTO about all kinds of things just like this. And this was literally one of the things we talked about that would just improve security overall. But this is actually, people have asked, for example, for the ability to modify policies and run and create and edit scripts via the API. And that's the exact reason we don't let anyone do that. So like people are frustrated it's not in the API, but it's like, well, it's a security problem if like you got an API token or something and you could just like run a script on every single endpoint. So we're probably never going to put scripts in the API, for example. Anyway, so yes, you're not crazy, you're not paranoid. That's a good request.
We have somebody commenting on the community-driven development track saying, please don't use Facebook. Just let us know where in your community thread it is or pin it. We'd be happy to get feedback. So Jeff, honestly, we thought about using our community forum for this. Unfortunately, when we ran these, some of these posts had over 1,000 comments. Like we really dove deep on some of these ideas. And the way that Facebook threaded the communications was much easier to track. Our community forum is actually pretty good. It's just not designed for individual posts that have like 1,000 comments on it. So we are going to use the Facebook community. And unfortunately, I'm not able to manage this in multiple areas. So we're going to have to do it in one place. So definitely please hop on the Facebook group if you can. If you're not on there already, we have over 3,000 MSPs on there. It's a massive, massive community. So it is beneficial.
We could post a link to it in the other places too.
Yeah, we'll definitely let folks know in the communities when these are happening. We just won't take requests elsewhere.
Question here from Mendy, who would like to be able to reboot computers via the API.
Yeah, that's sort of
I don't know.
Yeah.
This starts performing actions on an asset from the API is where there's this gray area for security reasons. I understand rebooting computers isn't really a big deal, but I think performing actions in general on a computer via the API is probably not going to happen.
Pierre's asking, can we deploy and capture BitLocker keys natively through Syncro? The script is not working for me. Pierre, I was going to say, yes, the scripts. So if that's not working, I mean, you can check. There might even be a couple scripts in our community library, but normally that's going to be, it should be just a one-line command. So I don't know if you're pulling it from like an older version of Windows or what's going on there, but normally you just pull it and then you can capture that right into a custom field on the asset record, which is something that our scripting allows you to do, which is write back custom data to asset records. So it should be working. If it's not, you can try reaching out to support. If it is a community script, which I think that one is, go in our community forums, and we don't support those community scripts directly, but there is a forum specifically for folks helping other folks with community-driven scripts. This is a really good question, Ian. I want to know what you think about this, because this has been kicked around for a while. Can we add the ability to run scripts natively from the tray menu? I really like that idea, and I understand the value of it. What do you think about that?
I've always liked the idea. I seem to recall Garrett had a really good reason why.
It's like a security thing, yeah?
I don't remember if it was security or not.
All right. Well, Garrett, if you're watching, and I'm sure you are, let us know after this, because I want to know why we can't do that too.
I don't remember the reason, but I recall there was a good reason why we haven't done it. It wasn't like whether we can or not. It was something else. It might have been security. I forget.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into that though, because I like that idea a lot. I do get the value of that one. Somebody's saying on a similar topic, talking about the API, how about accessing the API via scripts so we can update things like adding a new contact? So you can do that. Yeah, you could actually reference any API through PowerShell. And actually that's kind of what we're doing on the back end for some of our PowerShell commands. You just don't necessarily need to know what it's doing.
I guess we could make it easier, right? Like because like, you can use curl or whatever to make a post or a put just using normal PowerShell commands. But we could put it in the help, we could make a shortcut for it basically.
Ken is asking, when running a patch required report, okay, so we've got a couple reports that talk about vulnerable systems because they're missing patches and what those patches are. He would love to see the status of a device in the report, basically seeing if it's online. And I think what you're alluding to, Ken, is that you go ahead and you say, go ahead and install this. You don't know it's offline. It doesn't run. You look at the endpoint. You're kind of wasting your time there. If you want to show up to the next community-driven development track when we run that, please ask this because I'm 99% sure that would fit into the scope of this. And I love this one because it makes total sense, understand the use case, and I don't think that's a difficult ask. So definitely.
You could just put the tooltip, I forget, the context menu.
Yeah.
Put that in the, next to the asset.
Yep, love that one.
Yuri asks, do we have plans for single sign-on integration specifically with Azure? We're talking about doing like an OpenID. I don't know exactly how it'll happen, but essentially, yes, you'll be able to bring your own single sign-on solution. So it would work with Azure, it would work with Google Workspace, whatever.
I want to answer this next one in a self-serving way, but this anonymous user says, I'm a one-man shop and have been happy with where I've been at my business for the past 12 years with a handful of very long-term clients. I'm now becoming more motivated to take things to the next level and grow my business aggressively, really for the first time since jumping into business. What resources would you recommend that I read or watch that might provide good guidance for marketing and emphasis on emerging client trends? So the first thing I would say is, read my book, actually. So You Want to Be an MSP. Syncro is still giving that away for free. So if you just Google that, so I don't know if you have the link handy, Ian, but if you don't,
I'll get it.
Okay, Ian will put it up. You just sign up, and we'll give you a PDF copy of the book. This goes through, hey, I'm a startup MSP, and how do I get over that hump of exactly what you're talking about? I've been comfortable where I am. It's time to grow. What do I do? In terms of other resources, I would actually hit up our community because we have a very, very large and active community, both on Facebook and our community forums. Talk to folks, ask them what they're doing to market, ask them what worked for them. Now, take all that with a grain of salt, not because anybody's giving you bad data, but you'll be better at certain things than they will be. They'll be better at certain things than you are. So understanding what your strengths are and how to utilize other things that people are saying, you can probably utilize that to great effect. So I would definitely hit up our community. Those are the two places I'd really start first, especially at the size you're saying that you are.
I would add just a couple of books. The goal, A Process of Ongoing Improvement is one of the books. The Phoenix Project, which is kind of a derivative work specifically for IT of the goal. A lot of people like E-Myth Revisited. I have mixed feelings about it. Specific to marketing, also, there's a book called Traction. There's actually two books called Traction. One of them is about EOS. That's not the one I'm talking about. There's another one that's a marketing book called Traction. And I think that one is really good.
Oh, and Ruben added, and I should have added this. This is a great comment. There is a subreddit, MSP/r/MSP. There's like 1 billion people in there. It's active as hell. So that's another great place. People are super happy to help out other people there. You want to tackle, we don't really have an ETA on any SSO type thing at this point, right, Ian?
No, IP allow list for global admins is coming first. And then we're going to look at single sign-on.
All right, Jeff has circled back and is saying, yeah, canned responses for bulk actions. It'd be nice to be able to close a batch of tickets and send a canned response or just enter an internal note like ticket related to Microsoft outage. I see what you're saying. So you're saying you get basically a whole shitload of tickets like, hey, there was this internet outage. I got 20 tickets from the office. That's actually a pretty cool idea. So yeah, add that to our community forum feature request. I like that one. And then definitely, if you're on the Facebook group, we spin up this post for the community-driven development stuff. Add this too, because this may actually not be so big. Definitely want to find out because that's a cool one.
I just realized we haven't been looking at the YouTube. Well, I haven't been looking at YouTube or LinkedIn.
Yeah. William is, I think, the only other one being asked here. William's asking, actually, I'm only seeing LinkedIn again, and I had the same problem last time, so you might want to follow up. But William's saying, Could there be a better integration with Xero? Your note about invoices having the month added to them is great, but it can if it can't be pushed through Xero. I'm not sure what you mean there, William. We do have an integration with Xero. You shouldn't have any issues syncing your invoices over to it. So if it's missing something you need specifically, let me know. If you were under the impression that we don't support Xero, that's definitely not the case. We definitely do and have for a long time. Ian, if you want to grab anything else that's not out of LinkedIn, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I'll look.
I'll take something else though while Ian's looking. Jay's saying, hey, I'm new to Syncro. What's the roadmap for the UX? Would love to arrange things in the dashboards. So we're making small incremental improvements to the UX in general, Jay. One of the ideas, and actually you can let me know what you think now, that we were thinking about is if you take a look at the report builders, our executive summary report builder and our internal report builder, we were actually thinking about trying to put that in the web and almost turn that into a pseudo dashboard since all of that's customizable already. Let me know what you think about that and if that's something you think might be interesting, because then you could theoretically create your own dashboards and just include what you want in a customizable way. Let me know what you think about that. If you haven't seen those reports, check them out quick. And then, like I said, let me know what you think.
Anonymous attendee is asking about third-party patch management, and they're saying unless they're misunderstanding, they can only install them through scripting. So in policies, you can create a third-party application patch management policy, and that can install applications for you.
Yeah, that's the preferred way to do it. You shouldn't normally have to do anything like that through scripting. It's all policy-based, just like Windows updates as an example.
Yeah.
Sonny's asking, is there a way you can set up contracts so different SLAs get applied depending on the priority level? No, that's also a good feature request. We see that come in from time to time. It's definitely something we would like to add. If you haven't already, feel free to add that one as a feature request too, but I totally understand the value there. We're even thinking about, Sonny, let me know what you think about this. We were thinking about adding that as a ticket. Actually, I take it back. I think you can do that as ticket automations right now. You can go in and say, hey, if it's this priority, add the SLA. I'm going to get back to you on that one. I'm going to go look that up right now. I'm pretty sure we recently added that. Ian, you're muted, Ian.
Thank you. Another question from an anonymous attendee. What benefit do we get from buying Bitdefender, Webroot, and other AV, or not from buying, from integrating? Yeah, so I think there's a couple of benefits. One, you can buy it through us, so your bill is all in one place, so that's consolidated and easier to understand. The second thing is there's an integration. It makes it really easy to deploy because it's in the policies, right? In the Syncro policies. So it makes it easy to deploy only to certain endpoints. And each of the integrations is slightly different. So I'm going to send in the chat what the different integrations do, and you can check those out. So
right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned Bitdefender and Webroot, so I'll send those too.
So Sonny, I apologize. We actually just recently added this action in our ticket automation. So we're looking at a ticket automation here. Basically, you can say, yeah, if the priority is 1 or whatever you want it to be, set the SLA to X. So this is something that we recently added, so you can do this now. So check out ticket automations. You should be able to get that covered now. But good question. Oh, let's see. Do we have any updates on Syncro supporting signing email via DKIM? I have quite a few questions about that specifically.
I don't know specifically. Bobby would probably know.
Okay, folks, we'll look into that and we'll try and have an answer for the next one because I am seeing quite a few questions about this. Any plans on an integration with Square? I will say this, we are looking at options to include a lot more payment processors. I think we're going to try to avoid picking and choosing individuals and try looking at something that would open up a lot more options for everyone. No ETAs or anything like that, and I can't guarantee that's what we're going to do, but that's the route we're going to try and take.
Miles asks, can we get the ticket timer to be start minus pause minus stop instead of start minus stop? Having a bunch of timer entries just because I stopped the timer sucks. Yeah, I understand.
I missed the question here. What was it?
Basically, like when you start a ticket timer, you can't really like pause the ticket timer. You like start it and you can like stop it, right? And that creates a ticket timer entry. And the duration of the ticket timer entry is start minus stop from like the timestamps, right?
Got it. So
and so you end up with a bunch of ticket timer entries because you're like starting and stopping work.
So for anyone curious, this is the type of thing that we're looking at for this community direct development track. Love that one. Should be easy to do. Something that would definitely make all your lives easier. Bring that one up, please, because I can almost guarantee that's going to be pretty high on that list.
I would also love to know if you're some people are using like Toggle or other time tracking, Time Zest, other time tracking stuff, and then they're integrating that. I'd love to know what you're using and why that's better, and then how you'd want it to show up in Syncro. Because I think part of the issue is like people forget when part of the reason this is clean is because people forget to unpause. Right? Or like there's a lot of weird downsides of letting people pause. So I think I'd love to know what the ideal solution in your mind is that so that we can play out all the scenarios.
Yep. And that's one of the things. So that's a good point that Ian raised. Like that's always the oh, it's just a pause button. It's super easy. But then we probably have to add a report because you're going to have like the runaway timers. You're going to have people that paused it, forgot to add it back, and you're not billing out for that stuff. Tim saying, so I asked this question a few years back and there wasn't a solution, so I'm wondering if there is now. We build PCs for our clients and can't find a good way to order all the parts, then assign them to a finished product, removing them from inventory and selling the PC to the customer. Bundles were brought up, but you can't use the serial number of the built PCs in bundles. Hoping something was put in place the last few years that would solve this issue. There hasn't been. Bundles definitely is the answer, Tim. Technically, the PC, I mean, if you're tracking a bunch of individual serialized items that get made into a bundle, then the PC itself wouldn't really have a serial, I think, in this instance. I mean, I'm trying to understand better. Like, are you just randomly assigning like your own serial number to the PC? Because theoretically, at that point, it's just the sum of all the parts you put into it, and that would, by definition, be a bundle. So let me know a follow-up on that, because maybe I'm just not understanding that totally. Let's see what else we got here. Is there a way to display on invoices days in arrears, i.e. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and the amount of that is past due? I'm not totally following that one, Dan. Are you talking more like on the filters? Like when you go on the invoice list, do you want to say, hey, show me all the invoices that are past due 60 days or something like that? Let me know specifically what you're talking about there. Mendy's asking, is it possible to expand the API to receive more information about computers, like if it's online or not? I feel like there's going to be some issues with that one specifically, not a security issue, just the way that we handle that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's a lot more we could expose in the get endpoint for assets. But some of it, yeah, like some of it we don't like, we're not going to put installed applications in there, for example, for security reasons. We could add some other things. Online, offline, I feel like that could be a little finicky, but anyway, maybe send us your use case and we can talk about it.
All right. Updates to the mobile apps. I'll say the same thing. We always say this does come up a lot. The mobile app is not our current priority. It's functional. It's not amazing. We are aware. We do recommend for the time being for folks that do not want to use our native mobile app that you can, the vast majority of functionality is responsive on the web. So I'd load Syncro in a browser. That extends right down to launching remote sessions if you've got Splashtop app installed on your iOS or Android device. So that is a way, Scott, that you can do remote access through mobile devices. We have a whole slew of folks doing that today. So that's what I've looked into for the time being.
People are asking how they get a Syncro mug. Another person asked how do they get a Syncro hat. And I will say that there is a person on the team that is monitoring the community forums. This is an unofficial response from me, and you're not going to find any writing about this anywhere. But when people do cool things in the community, like they're nice to someone or they help someone out, we might randomly send them some swag. Just to encourage positive behavior in the communities.
And it was a thing before. I will say it may be a thing again, but the winners of the community-driven development track often receive swag as well. So if you see anybody on the Syncro Facebook group flaunting their Syncro mug, that's probably where it came from. Zane is asking, I think it's a question about rich text. There's an issue with double ticket situation. I believe that's still being addressed, Zane. I don't think we have a permanent solution for folks that are being affected by that, but it is on our known issue board. It is something that we're working toward resolving.
We have a comment here from Miles. It's a suggestion for the person who asked about bundles for custom built PCs. Miles says, for building a PC, we use the refurb model. We pick the product that is our build as the refurb and then add the inventory products in the refurb model as the items used. This takes them out of inventory and adds the build. Thanks, Miles.
Okay. I don't think that's something that we would probably be adding to Syncro, unfortunately, for that situation, but it's just not a common enough request. That said,
that you can already do.
Sorry, I thought he was talking about serializing the actual bundle device.
I got you.
Yeah, the best I can say there is I've been wrong before when I gauge popularity of anything. So if you want to throw that up in the community forum as a feature request, we'll see if other folks chime in. That's typically how we monitor stuff like that. So Dudley's saying, can we make it possible to change context in the script? Sometimes we need the user level and sometimes we need the system level. Right now, we need to have two scripts and chain them together with an alert. Dudley, I'm not 100% sure what you mean by the last part. You can assign any script to be run as the system or run as the logged in user. And then even if you have it set a certain way, when you go to run that script ad hoc, it will default to whatever you have set in the script, but you can actually change it on the fly. So, I mean, you have to determine what context you're going to run at the time you launch the script. So you should be able to do that end to end. So if I'm missing something there, let me know. I don't exactly know what I'm missing on that one. Okay, Dudley's saying, oh, he already answered. Example would be telling a user we need to reboot your computer and then rebooting it needs to happen at the system level. There's no way to loop back an action like that, really. The only thing I can think is you could try to get super creative and have that user level script fire something back to Syncro like a custom RMM alert, have the RMM alert then pick it up in automated remediation, and then fire a script that reboots that device as system. That's probably the best way I could think of off the top of my head to do it, but I don't think there'll be any like chaining mechanism for swapping context there. I wouldn't expect to see that anytime soon. Yuri's saying this might be a dumb question, but I have a really hard time searching for a ticket that is resolved that I don't know the subject or title for. Is there a way to search ticket bodies? Oh, that's not a dumb question, Yuri. The answer today is no. That's something we're looking to add into the ticket tab itself, where you'll be able to search through bodies, but you can filter for resolved tickets. So if you know like the general time frame and the customer, you should be able to create a filter for all that. And then obviously get close. It would be much easier if you could search the bodies. Definitely agree. Definitely something we're looking to add. For the folks who are asking for you're submitting your quality of life suggestions now, I appreciate your enthusiasm for this, but please save these for when we open the post in the community, in the Facebook group rather. It's very hard to track, so we need to keep them in one area. But I do love your guys' enthusiasm. Currently, we have a restart in the asset menus. I think a power management menu in the asset like shutdown, restart, wake on LAN. We do have wake on LAN. So basically, if the device is offline, there's just if you mouse over it, the wake on LAN button will appear. Let me know what other people think. I'm not super hot on having a shutdown command there, because if you accidentally do that and you just shut a machine off and you're trying to do like maintenance overnight, kind of screw yourself from being able to do that. Don't know if that's the best idea, especially since it's like a one-line command you could script if you wanted to. But if other folks want to see that, let me know and we can, it's something we can talk about.
Jeremy says, is there any way to set the grouping in the ticket view along with the saved filters? I have a feeling that Jeremy is going to like what Bobby's working on.
Yeah. So Jeremy, no, but that is one thing we're looking at. On top of that, in my opinion, views need to work like this. You save a view that you have loaded, it knows your sort order, it knows the columns you have visible, it knows what you don't have visible, it knows your filters. All of that should get saved, including the grouping, as a saved view. So that is something we're working on. We definitely hear you. That's a very good suggestion.
Yeah, you should actually, if you want to email me, I'd love to at ian@syncro.com. I'd love to introduce you to one of our product managers who's working on something like that.
Sonny's asking, do we have a way to generate a broadcast message when the splash top session has ended? There isn't a way to do that. That's a manual action only or through scripting. So there's not a way that we can trip that now. Sonny, what is it you're trying to do? Just let the customer know that you logged off the machine? Let me know on that one. Mendy's asking, is it possible to white label the Syncro Windows application in the app list, like the icon, name, and publisher name? Mendy, it's not. As you mentioned, you can basically brand the agent tray icon. You can change the name of it. You can change everything inside of it. You can't change what gets installed or where the agent gets installed to. No plans to do that now. I would never say never on that one, but it's not a super popular request. Yeah, Sunny's confirming that they're no longer connected to the desktop. I'll need to look. There might be something you can toggle in Splashtop. If Jimmy's watching this, actually, he's like the Splashtop master. So Jimmy, if you're here and you want to chime in, let me know if it's possible to pop a message when you close on a Splashtop.
Anonymous attendee said you guys answered all other questions except mine, but they're an anonymous attendee, so we don't know which question is yours.
Oh, there was an anonymous one. Okay, so it might be this one. In Syncro, can you provide the tech burden rate for each client? For example, tech 1 is $30 and tech 2 is $70. This information will enable us to calculate our profitability more accurately. The answer to that is not really. You can certainly bill at different rates like you're talking about and have different labor rates default per technician. I don't know if we're going to like add that together and average it and say this was your hard cost for this specific ticket. I might have you check out the efficiency reports. It's not exactly what you're looking at, but those are relatively new and can expose some pretty interesting things. But from a profitability perspective, no, that's not something that we do today.
I think part of it is that there's nowhere to enter their rate currently.
Well, there is on the labor, you mean the labor rate, right? You can have a technician specific labor rate.
Oh, I see. You can use that. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yep.
Sonny's asking, he wants to use the mailer module but support custom code so we can write a PHP script for customers. That's something, Sonny, that I don't think we'll ever do. That's definitely like a security type thing. Same thing we have when we say like, hey, you're going to download an Excel sheet from us. We're never going to have macros and things like that in here. Same thing for email. I don't think we would ever enable scripting into something that you can bulk email. Do you want to answer this? I've seen this a couple of times about the YubiKey stuff. Is that people saying there's discounts for MSPs using YubiKey or something to that extent?
Yeah, so like insurance is offering different rates and stuff based on what security policies you have in place. Yeah, I think that when we start to introduce things like single sign-on, you'll be able to do single sign-on through, say, Office, right? Or Azure, or Google Workspace. And Azure supports using a YubiKey. So you could say like, well, I log into Syncro through my Azure single sign-on and I use a YubiKey with that. So yes, you'd be able to say that.
The anonymous person asking about the labor saying, where is that? So two places. If you go in your products where you've got all your products listed, you can adjust your labor rates there. You can make as many labor rates as you want. You just classify them under your primary labor category. In terms of setting a default rate per technician, if you go in the admin settings under users, basically where you would apply like a security group to a user to dictate what they can and can't do. You can apply the default labor rate there. Doesn't mean they can't use something else, but when they're adding time to a ticket, it's automatically going to default that specific technician to whatever they have set there. So that's normally how you would handle something like that.
I got one here from anonymous attendee. I find this pretty amusing. I won't confess to having tray bar menu items that run PowerShell command to import the Syncro PowerShell module, so we can leverage the Syncro runner broadcast message command. But if we were using that, how likely is the module's location to ever change? Pretty unlikely. I don't think we've ever changed it before, and I don't know why we would change it. So I'd say it's unlikely, but if we were going to change it, we probably wouldn't tell you, because that's a pretty random, you have a very creative loophole. I commend the creativity.
Yeah, I had to actually stop for a minute and understand what you were doing, and it's pretty cool. All right, Dudley's saying, how deep can policy folders go? I find the more granular you make things, the easier it is to manage, and I worry about breaking it at some point. Dudley, it goes pretty deep. So it goes 5 subfolders deep. You can also apply a policy at the top level, and then you can also apply a policy directly to the asset. So you could theoretically go 7 levels deep. And I agree with you, for complex clients, the deeper you go with that, the easier it is to deploy, because it's like, hey, I need to add this one little thing. Cool, I'll make a level. I'll throw the new policy that only does X, Y, Z, and everything else gets inherited. So basically 7 levels deep. And you can go that deep within every subfolder. So like as an example, you could have 20 folders off of your primary folder that all go, 5 or 6 levels deep. So yeah, that's a good question. What else? Do we have anything else on the YouTube or Facebook front end? I'm not able to look at that.
Just a question about including ticket comments and search all the things. Yeah, we covered that a little earlier. We're looking into that.
Yeah, and to be clear, folks, when we do that, it's not going to be part of search all the things. We want to make sure that that stays performant. It's probably going to be in the search box on the ticket tab. Don't think anybody's going to care, but just so you know where when we do that, you can look for that.
Yeah, for context, there are millions of tickets, like many millions of tickets in the database. And so searching every word in every ticket is a pretty resource intensive activity. So that's the real challenge with including ticket comments. So as Andy said, we're probably going to have a slightly separate search specific to ticket comments if we do that, unless we can come up with some genius ways to make that performant.
Yep. Yuri's saying a previous ticketing solution allowed us to have a support or FAQ page that was public and under a subdomain under our domain. Does Syncro have that functionality? Yes, everything up to where you have your subdomain. So it would be spoke off of Syncro. However, there is a full-blown customer portal. It's way more, Yuri, than just support or FAQ. They can run all their tickets, create tickets, respond to tickets, see how many they have open. You can set permissions so that they can see their own endpoints. They can remote access out of the portal if you enable work from home. They can take care of invoices by paying them, reviewing them. There's a ton of stuff you can enable in there. One of the other things is our documentation center. So you can make documentation specific to a certain customer, and that stuff would show up there too. So we do have all of it right up until when you need the custom subdomain. We don't do that specifically.
Question on YouTube from Joe. Is there a report to see which computers have a specific software installed? Yes, there is. Installed applications report.
Yep. Vinod is asking, I was unable to find where I can enter tech rate. Okay, here, let me just show you this really quick. So I'm in our products now. So like this is a custom labor rate. This is a custom labor rate. Residential labor is custom labor rate. So when I'm on a ticket and you want to add time to the ticket, if you're on a timer as an example, you could use whatever labor rate you want. If you're adding time down here, like you add a comment, you're like, oh, took me an hour, you could add your labor rate here. And then if you want to use a default labor rate, if you're in the admin settings, you go to where your users are. This is your Syncro users, your technicians. And you can go in and it is here, default labor product, emergency labor. So whatever I have this set to when I'm logged in as this user, and I go to add time to a ticket, that's why it defaulted on the ticket to emergency labor, because that's what I have it set to. If it was something else, it'd be something else. So this can be different for every user you have. And you can just call it Bob's labor or tier 2 technician, like whatever you want, make as many as you want, and segregate your labor that way. You can definitely do what you're talking about.
Hey, Douglas has a pretty awesome quality of life improvement. I don't know if it's a quality of life improvement, but it's small, I think. From a ticket comment, like from the ticket detail page, when you're writing a comment, you know how you can select public, private note, whatever. It'd be cool if you could also check like broadcast to agent.
Oh, that's interesting. Douglas, I'd add one other thing that I don't know if you know about, but we have a full-blown live chat module, and it's awesome end-to-end. But even that aside, even if you don't want your end user having live chat, you could use that to send them a message just like that. Just send them a chat right to the endpoint, and it'll pop up a message as well. So, but I like the idea about the broadcast message. That's pretty cool. You just wouldn't be able to get a response back unless they went back to the ticket though. But I do, yeah, for getting them information fast, that's pretty cool.
Jay has a question about assets online and offline and the status indicator not always being accurate. Long story short, we are going to move to another system for that sometime soon, and that should help a lot with that.
And this is another one of those back-end changes which hard to realize the value at face value, but it unlocks a ton of things for us. I'm not going to promise like the types of things that we're adding, but there's other things that present system would allow us to do. Like as an example, you could tell when a technician is looking at a specific ticket, or they're actively inside it, things like that. So that's all the types of things that we're hoping that stuff unlocks for us. Joseph saying, hey, speaking of search all the things, can we get the ability to hit the enter key to see all the search results again? Yeah, you know what, Joseph, that's a kind of a dumb oversight. I'm going to raise that again because it should be like a 2-minute fix, honestly. And I agree. If it doesn't show up in the first couple of results, you can't see it. We need to get that fixed. So yeah, good call out.
Got a comment here from anonymous attendee about the Cloudflare stuff and whether we could develop a partnership with them. Anything's possible, but they're pretty big. And I could try to do that, but I'll just say like the lift for that kind of a partnership is pretty heavy. So even though, yes, maybe we could do that, like I probably could get you more value out of spending time on other things. But it's not a bad idea.
Jeff's asking, is there a way to associate a chat conversation with a ticket for documentation purposes? Yes, absolutely. When you are in a chat, there's just a button there for creating a ticket to it. What it does is it will create a new ticket and it will link to your chat. So there's a functionality we have in chat, which is when you end the chat, which is a chat interaction. So for folks that haven't used our chat, it's not the sucky little notepad window that pops up like through Screen Connect or Splashtop or something. This is full-blown async chat. Doesn't have to mean that somebody else is there on the other end. You can even have it sending back messages if you don't respond in a couple minutes, saying, hey, we normally respond in a couple hours type thing. It's basically an alternative to email the ticket for a little bit more modern companies that like to use that. And when you end that chat, it's basically like the end of the interaction. You can name it anything you want to reference it, and it gets attached to the customer record. So if you want to ever go back and check on your tickets or audit something, you're free to do that. And if you wanted to add it to a ticket, you can. And instead of dumping a whole litany of chat comments into the ticket, it just links the chat interaction. So whether the chat is active or it's been archived, we'll magically like relink it. So you always have access to the associated chat. So definitely can do that today. Good question.
We got a follow-up for the person who wanted to be able to run scripts from the system tray. Garrett did indeed. remember why he said that's not a good idea. And it is a security reason. And I'm not going to go into it, but I think it's valid. So we're probably not going to do that.
Okay, well, that answers that one. So Jeremy, that's the answer to your question there too, bud. What else do we got here? Just a note, guys, we're a couple minutes over time, but me and Ian booked some extra time here. So if you still have questions, send them in. I think we're going to take a couple more before calling it today. Can we automatically add a canned response to all ticket responses? We use canned responses to add our name tagline at the bottom. However, we need to add a canned response per agent, and you need to select it each time. So, Jeff, ask a follow-up, but it sounds to me, if I were to say that another way, it sounds like you're asking if we can have agent-specific ticket signatures, basically, like it's a sign-off on every ticket. If that's what you're talking about, let me know. If it is, I think that's a good suggestion.
Joe was saying
specific signatures. So, okay, Jeff, add that to our community forum, specifically tag me on it, because I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I like that. Joe was saying that the installed applications report, when you click the installed application account, it's supposed to bring him to an asset index page with all those assets, right? He's saying it's not doing anything.
It doesn't today. So it's something we need to add. Another great one, if you guys raise it, that I think we need to add. It needs to link out. I totally agree. So
For what it's worth, Joe, in the meantime, you can go to the assets index page and create a saved search and just type in the application you want to see. And it'll show you all the assets that have that installed or not installed. Obviously, that's not as easy as clicking a link, but you can do it.
I can get a notification when a server goes offline, but don't get one when they come back online. So Scott, that's a good question. And that's really a flow thing. Normally, I do understand why you would want to get it if it's online, but in order for it to be like something on your radar, it would theoretically have to go offline first. So normally you wouldn't just want to get notified on a bunch of stuff coming online. So the way you would handle that in Syncro, you would go into automated remediation and you would say, if the condition is the trigger alert is offline alert, so everything that's offline goes into that, you'd probably add another thing that says, if this is a server device, because you're really not going to care every time a laptop comes back online, for instance. And then in the actions, you can run a script and that will do whatever you want, including alert you. And that script would basically go into the queue on the endpoint and it wouldn't fire until it comes back online. So basically it's just a queue waiting there for it to come back online. It'll process and then run whatever you want. If you want to flow it back through automated remediation and send emails, tickets, text messages, send it to Slack, all of that stuff is covered. So you should be able to handle that without a problem.
Joe had a question. Is there currently a way to have a separate email domain for different groups of customers? Whichever domain they send an email to, our ticket response also comes from that specific domain.
Yeah. The first part, yes. The second part, no. So
yeah,
you can have multiple inbound boxes. There's only going to be one outbound box. But if you want to handle something differently coming through like for instance, if you wanted to assign everything coming from one particular email address to a specific technician, we have the inbounds for that. We don't have a way to have it go out from multiple outbounds.
Okay, we're well over time.
Yep, I don't see anything else coming in. So I think that's it. Thanks everybody for all the questions. I hope to see all of you in the Facebook group for this community-driven development track, and should have at least one more quality of life feature rolling out, the one I talked about, probably next week. So a lot of good stuff going on.
Thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
Next time.